I should have known something was wrong when Dad insisted on hosting his retirement party at the exclusive Summit Club rather than our family's usual steakhouse. The private dining room probably cost more than my first car, and Victoria's designer dress could have paid my mortgage for 3 months. At 65, my father looked distinguished in his tailored suit, silver hair perfectly styled, Rolex glinting under the crystal chandeliers. But there was something different in his eyes, something calculating that reminded me more of his boardroom persona than my dad. "James, darling, come sit by me," Victoria called, patting the chair next to her. At 32, she was closer to my age than my father's, and her smile never quite reached her eyes. They'd met at his country club 6 months ago, and their whirlwind romance had culminated in a quick courthouse wedding that none of us, not even my sister Sarah, had been invited to attend. "Actually, I need to make a quick call," I said, stepping out onto the terrace. I dialed Sarah immediately. "Please tell me you're coming," I whispered. "Something feels off." "Stuck at the hospital," she replied, her voice thick with frustration. "Emergency surgery. But James, be careful. Victoria came by my office yesterday, asking weird questions about your new position at Morgan Stanley." My stomach clenched. I'd recently been promoted to senior investment advisor, and my commission structure had significantly increased. But I hadn't told Victoria about that. "What kind of questions?" "About your exact income, your client list, whether you had power of attorney over any accounts." I told her to talk to you directly, but... "Ladies and gentlemen," Dad's voice boomed from inside. "Please take your seats." "Got to go," I told Sarah. "I'll call you later." The dining room held about 30 people, mostly Dad's golf buddies and their wives, a few business associates, and some faces I didn't recognize but who seemed very familiar with Victoria. My mother, who'd passed away 5 years ago, would have hated everything about this evening. "James, sit here." Dad gestured to a chair between him and Victoria. A leather portfolio sat next to my place setting, embossed with the logo of Victoria's law firm. The first red flag. Throughout the appetizer course, I watched my father perform. He'd always been charismatic, but tonight he was working the room like a politician. Victoria kept touching my arm, asking about my clients, my schedule, my banking arrangements. The second red flag. Before the main course, Dad stood, raising his champagne glass. "I want to thank everyone for celebrating this milestone with me. Retirement is a new chapter, and thanks to my beautiful wife's guidance, I've been doing some estate planning." Victoria beamed, but there was something predatory in her expression. "My son James," Dad continued, "has recently been promoted. $8,000 in monthly commissions, plus bonuses." Victoria helped me realize something. Family wealth should support family dreams. My hand froze halfway to my water glass. "So tonight, we're announcing some changes. James has graciously agreed to support our retirement lifestyle. Victoria's law firm has drawn up the paperwork, power of attorney, account access, everything properly filed." The room burst into applause, but I barely heard it over the rushing in my ears. I opened the portfolio next to my plate. Inside was a stack of legal documents, and there at the bottom was my signature. Except I hadn't signed anything. "Dad," I said quietly, "what is this?" "Just making things official, son. Victoria noticed your signature on some old documents I had, and she helped expedite the process. You understand. At my age, I need to ensure proper financial support." The third red flag turned into a full-blown air raid siren. "You forged my signature." I kept my voice low, conscious of the watching crowd. Victoria leaned in, her perfume cloying. "James, darling, your father gave you everything. Your education, your connections, your career. He's just asking for a reasonable return on investment." Return on. I stopped, the pieces clicking into place. The questions at Sarah's office, the sudden interest in my clients. "Dad, is this why you insisted on having the party here? To pressure me in public?" "Don't make a scene," Dad hissed, but I was already standing. "I need to make something clear," I announced to the room. "I haven't signed anything. I haven't agreed to anything. And I'm calling my lawyer." Victoria's smile turned sharp. "Actually, James, you might want to check your accounts before making any rash statements." My blood ran cold. I pulled out my phone and logged into my banking app. My accounts were empty, every single one. "What did you do?" "Your father had some existing documentation, Power of attorney from when you were in college, Victoria explained smoothly. Never properly revoked. We simply updated it. The transfers were completed this morning. That POA expired when I graduated. But even as I said it, I remembered never officially terminating it. Dad had promised he'd handle it. Sit down, Dad ordered through clenched teeth. We'll discuss this privately. No, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. We'll discuss it with the FBI. Because what you've done isn't estate planning. It's fraud. The room went silent. Victoria's friends stopped their chattering. Dad's golf buddies suddenly became very interested in their appetizers. You ungrateful. Dad started, but I cut him off. Ungrateful. You and your new wife just tried to steal my income. You forged my signature. You illegally accessed my accounts. And you thought doing it in public would force me to comply. I turned to the room. I apologize for disrupting the evening, but I need witnesses. I am officially stating that I have not authorized any financial arrangements. Any documents bearing my signature after January of this year are forgeries. And yes, I will be pressing charges. Victoria stood, her composure cracking. You have no proof. Actually, I pulled out my phone. This entire conversation is being recorded. And my sister Sarah has documentation of your visit yesterday, asking suspicious questions about my finances. Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of red. Son, after everything I've done for you, everything you've done for me, let's talk about that. You've been embezzling from your company for years, haven't you? That's why the sudden retirement, the quick marriage to a lawyer, the desperate grab for my income. The SEC is closing in, aren't they? The look on his face confirmed everything. How did you? He sputtered. I'm an investment advisor, Dad. I know the signs. And Victoria's law firm specializes in hiding assets from federal investigations. How much did you steal? How much are you trying to hide? Victoria was already gathering her things, but I stepped in front of her. The FBI will be very interested in your role in this, counselor. Conspiracy, fraud, identity theft. That's a lot of charges for someone who just passed the bar 3 years ago. James, Dad tried one last time. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're going to jail, she's going to jail, and I'm going to make sure every penny you stole goes back to the people you took it from. I pulled out my second phone, my work phone, and dialed. Yes, this is James Mitchell. I need to report fraudulent financial activity and corporate embezzlement. Yes, I'll hold. The room erupted into chaos. Victoria's friends rushed for the exits. Dad's golf buddies suddenly remembered urgent appointments. Through it all, I stood my ground, foam to my ear, watching my father's carefully constructed facade crumble. A text from Sarah lit up my personal phone. Police are on their way. Hang on. The next 48 hours were a blur of federal agents, forensic accountants, and revelations that made my head spin. From my temporary office at the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, I watched my father's scheme unravel like a cheap sweater. Your father embezzled close to $12 million over the past decade, Agent Lisa Chen explained, spreading documents across the conference table. He was brilliant at hiding it, until Victoria got involved. She got sloppy, I said, reviewing the papers. Started moving money too quickly, too obviously. She was planning to take everything and run. Agent Chen confirmed. Including your monthly commissions, we found one-way tickets to a non-extradition country booked for next month. My phone buzzed, another text from Sarah. Dad's asking to see us. Should we go? I showed the message to Agent Chen, who nodded. It might help our case if you do. Just remember, everything's being recorded. The county jail's visiting room was a far cry from the Summit Club. Dad sat there in an orange jumpsuit, the Rolex replaced by handcuffs, his perfectly styled hair now disheveled. He looked older, smaller somehow. Son, he began, then stopped when he saw Sarah beside me. Princess, I didn't expect. Cut the act, Dad, Sarah snapped. The DA showed me everything. You weren't just stealing from your company, you were stealing from Mom's medical trust while she was dying. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What? $300,000. Sarah's voice shook. Money that was supposed to pay for experimental treatments. You transferred it out 2 weeks before she died. Dad's face crumpled. I was going to pay it back. With my money? I leaned forward. Is that why you and Victoria targeted my accounts? To cover up what you stole from Mom. Victoria said she could fix everything, he whispered. Said she had experience hiding assets from federal investigations. I just needed access to liquid funds. Your commissions were perfect. And the forged power of attorney. She found the old one from your college years. Said we could backdate a renewal, make it look legitimate. The plan was to drain your accounts slowly, make it look like you were supporting us voluntarily. Sarah's hands were clenched so tight her knuckles were white. Mom could have lived, Dad. Those treatments might have worked. I know, he buried his face in his hands. God help me, I know. Where's Victoria now? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Gone. She emptied our joint accounts yesterday and disappeared. Her law firm claims they had no idea what she was doing. Agent Chen had warned me this might happen. Victoria had taken what she could and run, leaving my father to face the consequences alone. The FBI found the rest of the forged documents in your home office, I told him. Victoria's fingerprints are all over them. They'll catch her. They already have, Sarah added grimly. TSA stopped her at O'Hare this morning. She was carrying fake passports and over $200,000 in cash. Dad seemed to age another decade right before our eyes. I've ruined everything, haven't I? Yes, I said simply. But you can still do one right thing. Tell the FBI everything. Help them recover what's left of the money. Your mother would be so ashamed of me, he whispered. Sarah stood abruptly. Don't you dare talk about Mom. You lost that right when you stole her chance to live. As we left the jail, Sarah turned to me. What happens now? Dad and Victoria will go to prison. The company's insurance will cover some of the losses. I've already arranged to make restitution payments from my own funds to help the people they hurt. You don't owe him anything, she protested. No, but Mom would want us to help fix this. It's what she would have done. Later that night, as I sat in my apartment reviewing the damage to my accounts, I found something interesting. A series of small transfers dating back 5 years, moving money from Dad's personal account to an offshore shell company. Look at this, I showed Sarah over video chat. The transfer started right after Mom died. Sarah's eyes widened. That's when he started dating again. You don't think? Victoria wasn't his first target, I confirmed. She was just the first one who decided to steal from him instead. Karma's a witch, Sarah muttered. The next day, the story broke in the financial press. My father's company's stock plummeted. Victoria's law firm dissolved overnight. And my phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from Dad's other victims. People who had trusted him with their money, their futures. I agreed to meet them all. 6 months after the infamous retirement party, I sat in my office at Morgan Stanley, looking at the framed newspaper article on my wall. Financial advisor exposes multi-million-dollar fraud ring, saves victim's life savings. It wasn't the kind of publicity I'd ever wanted, but it had become a symbol of trust for my clients. Mr. Mitchell, my assistant peeked in. The support group is gathering in the conference room. What had started as informal meetings with my father's victims had evolved into a monthly support group for survivors of financial fraud. Today was special. Victoria's sentencing was due, and everyone wanted to be together when the news came. James, Mrs. Reynolds, my father's former secretary, hugged me as I entered. Any word yet? The judge should announce it within the hour. I replied, knowing how much healthier she looked now. We'd managed to recover most of her retirement fund. The room filled quickly. Former executives, administrative staff, even some of Dad's golf buddies who turned out to be victims rather than conspirators. Sarah arrived last, carrying a box of Mom's old photo albums. Found these in Dad's storage unit, she explained, along with some interesting documents. Before she could elaborate, my phone buzzed. The room fell silent as I put it on speaker. Victoria Morrison has been sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Agent Chan announced. No possibility of parole for 12 years. Your father's testimony was crucial. He gets 8 years with the possibility of parole in 5. Mixed reactions rippled through the room. Some felt it wasn't enough. Others were just relieved it was over. There's more, Agent Chen continued. Victoria rolled on her entire network. 12 other lawyers, 3 accountants, all involved in similar schemes. The FBI is calling it Operation Trust Fall. After the call ended, Sarah opened the box she brought. Look what else Dad was hiding. Inside were documents dating back 10 years, meticulous records of every fraudulent transaction, Every stolen dollar, every manipulated account. But more importantly, there were letters from Mom. She knew, Sarah said softly, holding up one dated just weeks before her death. She discovered what he was doing but was too sick to stop him. The letter was heartbreaking. My dearest children, if you're reading this, I couldn't find the strength to fight both the cancer and your father's demons. Protect yourselves. Watch the money. Don't let him do to you what he did to me. Mrs. Reynolds wiped away tears. Eleanor always was the smartest one in the room. As the group shared memories of Mom, I noticed something tucked into one of the photo albums. A USB drive labeled insurance. Later that night, Sarah and I reviewed its contents in my home office. Mom had documented everything. Account numbers, transfer dates, even recordings of conversations with Dad about the missing medical trust money. She was building a case, Sarah realized, right up until the end. And now we can use this to help everyone he hurt, I added. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal activity. Mom's evidence helped recover another $3 million hidden in offshore accounts. Victoria's network of corrupt lawyers had their licenses revoked. The company's stock began to stabilize. But the real healing happened in smaller ways. Mrs. Reynolds started a financial literacy program for seniors. Two of Dad's former golf buddies launched a fraud prevention consultancy. Sarah, inspired by Mom's detective work, left her surgical practice to specialize in forensic accounting. As for me, I established the Eleanor Mitchell Foundation for Fraud Prevention, funded by my commissions, the same money Dad and Victoria had tried to steal. 1 year to the day after the retirement party, I received a letter from prison. Dear James, your mother's evidence finally made me understand what I've become. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that every day I work with the FBI to help other families avoid what I did to ours. Victoria says I betrayed her. The truth is, I betrayed your mother's memory long before Victoria came along. You and Sarah are Eleanor's children through and through, strong, honest, protective of others. I'm sorry I tried to steal more than money from you. I tried to steal your integrity. Dad. Sarah framed the letter in her new office. To remind me why we do this, she explained. The support group continued to grow, becoming a national network for fraud survivors. Mom's story, her quiet strength, her hidden evidence, her final warning to her children, became a beacon of hope for others. Your monthly commission didn't end up funding my lifestyle after all, Victoria wrote bitterly from prison. But it did fund my downfall. She was right. Every dollar they tried to steal now went to preventing others from experiencing similar pain. The retirement party that was supposed to launch their scheme instead sparked a movement. Mom would have liked that. She always said money was like water. It could nourish growth or drown you, depending on how you used it. Today, when clients ask about the newspaper article on my wall, I tell them it's not just about exposing fraud. It's about honoring a promise made by a dying mother to protect her children, and her children's promise to protect others in return. The commission checks that Dad and Victoria coveted still come every month, but now they serve a different purpose, funding scholarships, supporting investigations, rebuilding broken trusts. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting better. 2 years after the retirement party that changed everything, I stood at Mom's grave with a bouquet of her favorite lilies. The Eleanor Mitchell Foundation had just won a national award for fraud prevention, and I wanted her to be the first to know. You should see what Sarah's doing now, Mom, I said quietly. She testified before Congress about financial elder abuse. Your evidence started a whole legislative movement. A familiar voice behind me said she would be incredibly proud. I turned to find Mrs. Reynolds holding her own flowers. She'd become like a second mother to Sarah and me over the past 2 years. Did you hear about Victoria? She asked, placing her flowers beside mine. I nodded. Victoria had tried to run a scheme from inside prison, attempting to manipulate other inmates' settlement payments. She earned herself another decade behind bars. Some people never learn, I replied. But Dad had surprised everyone. He'd become a valuable asset to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, working from prison to unravel complex fraud networks. His insider knowledge had helped recover over $50 million in stolen assets across multiple cases. Your father sent me this, Mrs. Reynolds handed me a letter. He wants to donate his entire pension to the foundation once he's released. says it's blood money and it should help heal the wounds he created. The support group had evolved into a full-fledged advocacy organization, with chapters in 12 states. Sarah ran the forensic investigation division, while I handled the financial education programs. Mom's meticulous record-keeping had become a template for fraud detection training nationwide. "Remember what your mother used to say about money?" Mrs. Reynolds smiled. "That it's like water." I nodded. "It shows the truth of things by how it flows." "Well, look how truth is flowing now," she said, gesturing to her phone and showing me the latest news. Victoria's entire legal network had been indicted. The corruption she'd fostered had led investigators to dozens of similar schemes across the country. That evening, Sarah and I hosted a special session of the support group. But this time, we had an unexpected guest. Dad, appearing via video call from prison. "I can never undo what I did," he told the room. "But maybe I can help prevent others from becoming what I became." He shared new insights about how predators like Victoria targeted vulnerable people, how they manipulated emotions and family ties to access funds. His confession became a powerful teaching tool. "Eleanor would be pleased," Mrs. Reynolds whispered as we wrapped up the session. "Not about what happened, but about what you've built from it." The foundation now offered free financial counseling, legal support, and fraud recovery services. That $8,000 monthly commission Dad and Victoria had tried to steal. It had grown into a multi-million-dollar operation helping thousands. "Money is like water," Mom wrote in her final letter. "It can carve destructive paths or nourish beautiful gardens. Choose wisely, my children." We had chosen. Every dollar that flowed through the foundation carried Mom's wisdom, Dad's redemption, and the collective strength of survivors helping others. The retirement party that was meant to launch a scheme had instead launched a legacy, not of theft and betrayal, but of protection and healing. As I left Mom's grave that evening, I noticed something new had been added to her headstone. Her truth flowed like water, nourishing justice and healing hearts. Sarah had arranged it, using funds from her first forensic accounting case. It was perfect.